This is The Great Equalizer, a parenting podcast about the realities of being a mom
or dad
in the 2020s. We are your hosts, Sam
and Charlene,
and we believe we're all rocking the same kind of crazy.
So let's get real, let's get honest, and let's have a laugh about the ups and downs of our current upside down. Hashtag no judgies.
On this episode of The Great Equalizer, in a world with an ungodly heightened expectations on parents to perform, is good enough really a good thing?
We're chatting with Johannesburg-based psychoanalyst and mom of two, Andy Cohen, about parenting in the world's current pressure cooker and how that's reflected in her book, Parenting Psychoanalysed. Welcome, Andy.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Gosh, this is gonna be a goodie. This is like a, when I was busy reading this book and drafting these questions, I was like, yes, okay, let's get the meat out of this.
I'm ready.
But we do want to discuss kind of you're a mom, and we want to know, because we ask everybody, how's that going for you?
I mean, where do I start, right? I think it's always hard. It never got easier. I don't know where, the manual just never arrived.
Yeah.
And I continue to hobble along like the rest of us.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. But also a joy, hey? I mean, somebody said to me the other day, it's like a beautiful burden.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. That is what it is.
Yeah.
It's one of the hardest things I think you'll ever do. I told someone the other day, it's one of the hardest things I think you'll ever do in your life, or certainly from my experience. But I would choose it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
It's the most fulfilling job in the world, to me, at least.
There's some psychoanalytic theory. I think Freud actually wrote that psychoanalysis is called the impossible profession. There's kind of a thing that's spoken about between psychoanalysts. And actually some of the writers in this book, I'm sure, referenced that actually parenting is an impossible profession. There's something really impossible about what we're doing, and we get to grapple with that every day.
I love that, and I love how much psychoanalysis kind of bleeds into parenting and how the two kind of mesh together. It's really just like the symbiotic relationship for me.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of synergy between the two topics, and I can't wait to get stuck in, but I do want to fill our listeners in about who you are, where you've been, what you do, what your brain is like. I'm really just fascinated. So you're a psychoanalyst. You're with the South African Psychoanalytical Association. I had no idea there was a difference between psychotherapy and what you guys do. So we're gonna talk about that. But I mean, you are a TEDxer. Can you? Is that what you call a person who does a TED Talk?
I don't know.
You're a TEDer. You've done that thing. You've got a TEDx talk. A mom can't always act like a grown-up. Here's why. We're going to link our listeners up to this. And you hold an MA in fine art.
Yes.
Okay. I want to see some of your stuff firstly. I'm very curious. You trained as a community art counselor at Lefika La Podiso, which is an NGO providing art-based psychodynamic mental health services to at-risk communities. You've done a lot. You've been everywhere. You live in our city. I can't believe we're only seeing you now.
I know.
Tell us how your kind of passion for public health and community kind of work, how you blended all of that in with psychotherapy and fine arts. Tell me, in a nutshell, what was that journey like?
Sure. I mean, in a way, I sort of came to psychoanalysis, I guess, kind of as a third career in a way. I originally had a background, I came from fashion and fine art, that's sort of my first career. I studied fine art. I went into the fashion industry.
What was your medium? Textiles?
Mixed media.
Oh, okay.
Sculpture, mixed media.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
want to see some stuff.
Me too.
I started sort of in a completely different world, in a corporate space, actually, when I went into the working world. And I just found it very unsatisfying. I'm a very creative person, and I just found that when I was in it, I just didn't scratch the itch. I thought that I was going to go into something creative using my art skills, and it just didn't just didn't do that. I also noticed I started getting into dynamics at work that just where patterns were repeating, and I didn't like the work environments. And so, I started getting curious about why I was drawn to spaces, why I was working for certain places and people and things like that. And in my early 30s, I fell out of love with the industry and cut ties and decided I'm starting again. And sort of around when I was thinking about having kids, actually, so something was starting to shift. And I decided I wanted to train as an art therapist. And at the time, and I think that was really because art has always been when I was at varsity, it was a way for me to work through stuff. Like I knew that it was like a way I could have a conversation with myself. So I returned back to that when I could feel I was looking for something internally. And then at the time, you couldn't study art therapy in South Africa. It's quite a new degree here. But there was Lefika Lapodiso, which is the art therapy center, where they trained counseling techniques using art. And I loved it. It felt like it was the first time I ever heard the word psychoanalysis. And I felt like when I was hearing the theories and doing work and working with people in that way, it's like someone turned the light on. And that sort of coincided with me starting a family. The two kind of dovetailed. And then when that training ended, I felt like I wanted more. And so around about that time, I went back I did my master's in fine art, and I did my thesis on an artist who was in psychoanalysis. And then as research, I went into analysis myself.
Okay.
So I went into my own treatment 4 times a week. And
4 times a week?
Yeah, psychoanalysis is 4 times a week or more, 5 times a week, yeah.
Okay. Therapy once a month is draining for me.
Yeah.
And an hour-long session, each of the...
50 minutes, yeah.
50 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so I kind of got myself into it through my thesis and my research about it. I think I was really just interested in myself and what the changes were going on. I just really wanted to work out why I wasn't happy in my work, and I had things I needed to work out, and I was becoming a mother, and that was really hard and really challenging. And I fell in love with the process. I found it deeply satisfying, very rewarding, very challenging. I don't want to paint a unicorn and rainbows picture. It was very hard, but it really was the thing that hit the spot. I suddenly started to understand things about myself that no other therapy process had ever done for me. And I dabbled a lot. I did a lot of self-help, coaching. I went to different kinds of therapists like CBT and clinical psychologists. I tried everything. I was the kind of person, I was always reading and I was reading hard stuff like spirituality, and I just was looking everywhere, and nothing hit like psychoanalysis hit. And then I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm going to train. So through that process, through being in your own analysis, if you're in psychoanalysis with a training analyst, you can train to become one. And so, even though I don't have a psychology degree, to become a psychoanalyst, Freud welcomed artists into the profession because the mind thinks metaphorically. So artists and poets and writers are very well equipped we already think metaphorically, and we're very, very well equipped to understand the metaphorical quality of how the mind creates ideas about itself. It's actually easier in a way for people who come from the arts to train as an analyst because we don't work in a diagnostic medical model.
You see, this is what I was very surprised when you first said that, because I was just if it's analysis, you wouldn't expect someone who has a creative mind to be able to be so analytical, because you think of analytics as numbers and graphs and things like that.
No, it's the mind thinks in images and pictures. If you think about it, when you're a baby, you don't, your mind is it's metaphorical. So your first experiences are in pictures, right? And those pictures then become symbols, and then those symbols gather meaning, and then words come. So in a way, the way artists work is we work through pictures, and then we try to work out of the back end what the thing means.
Right,
So in a way, it equips you to kind of be open to something. Whereas in a medical model, it's a lot of box ticking. And, if you fit these 5 criteria, then you're XYZ. And analysts don't think like that. We formulate, we have pictures in our mind of what could be happening, but no person is one thing. So, and if you diagnose, you actually shut something down and limit, So yeah, it was like actually the perfect thing. It was the absolute perfect thing for me to do. I feel like I found
Your thing.
my thing.
I was honestly today years old when I found this out, that you could be a psychoanalyst but not having studied or had a degree in psychology.
Yes,
but
same.
I do know psychologists and psychiatrists do study a phase of psychoanalytics.
You often find that psychoanalysis is something that practitioners train as a kind of a second thing to add on to their training. So like in the States, a lot of doctors, psychiatrists then become psychoanalysts, Even here, like if I think about the psychoanalysts in South Africa, most of them were clinical psychologists, and then they decide, no, they want to deepen the work in a wider way, get into the crux of things in a way that the skill set wasn't giving. So it's a very deep, very extensive form of therapy, and it's a very creative process. It just really is. Yeah.
I'm fascinated by it.
Same.
And the work that you've put in has been extended. Your TED Talk I mentioned earlier. My mom can't always act like a grown-up, and here's why. Again, we'll link our viewers up to it. But we're here because of your book,
Yes.
essentially, which came out this year, Parenting Psychoanalyzed, and I love it because it's letters to a parent, which is me and you.
Yes.
Tell us more about the book. What sets it apart from others? There's so many parenting books out there.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would hesitate to say, let me just put it this way. What's that popular one? Like, expectation.
What to expect when you're expecting.
When you're expecting. Can it, guys? Can it? It deals with the first year. That's not what you need. You need stuff like this.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like you can figure out the other stuff via Google. This is not Googleable stuff. So tell us more about your book, Parenting Psychoanalyzed. What's the elevator pitch, essentially?
Oh, my goodness. Here I go. Okay. No, look, I think I had the same feeling as you because I also bought all the books when I first had a baby. And I thought, I'm
ready.
I'm ready. I'm studied. I've got all the resources.
I knew it.
Prepared.
Did you? You were over prepared. You were prepared.
All of the
so
things.
prepared.
But none of it worked. Firstly, it put more pressure on me because it felt like I had 100 tick boxes and I couldn't
do them all.
I couldn't live up to any of them. I feel like generally the parenting book landscape is made up of books that talk about the what and not about the why. I feel like nobody is addressing why parenting is so painful, why it is so challenging. And this is not because, as a small example, like, mommy brain. Okay, mommy fog, when you have a baby and you keep forgetting things and people are like, oh, it's the hormones and you're sleep deprived. Okay, it is those things, but it's also because you now have a little baby who hasn't formed a mind yet. And the mother forms an auxiliary function for the baby. The mother has to metabolize all the feelings and all the thoughts that are coming into the baby. But it's all unconscious. You don't know you're doing it, but you're receiving all those, like how when a baby cries, it hits you in the gut. That. You're being hit by a feeling, right? And that experience is exhausting because you've got someone in your mind using, you're thinking for two. Now, that's quite important, actually, to tell new mothers that the exhaustion is because your energy, your mind is being
consumed by this other being.
Yes, and it's and then I think what can happen very easily is that we can reject that. You can push it away because you have to try to conserve energy. You don't know what's pulling on you, right? So there's no words that are put to it. So I found that over parenting young kids that there were no resources that described the dynamic, the why is this hard? Why doesn't this come easily to me? Like, it's not just because my child won't latch, it's because there's something in me that can't give. Like, I don't know what that is. You know, I don't know where did this thing come from? And then you just feel like a terrible parent rather than, no, this is aggravating something in me from when I was this age. So I felt like there was a deficit. And then when I got into the world of psychoanalysis and somebody started describing these things to me theoretically, I was like, but why are psychoanalysts not talking to the public?
Why is no one telling anyone any of this?
It's like the world's best kept secret, I'm telling you. And I felt like, and then when I got into the world and I started training and I was, you know, reading psychoanalytic journals and papers, and it's a very academic space, actually. I started noticing that for some reason, and I don't have an answer as to why yet, but psychoanalysts are very well published. But
in the academic space.
Only in the academic space. You know, so you have like, I'm just thinking about like Brené Brown's and Dr. Shafali, you know, they're not analysts.
They dabble like adjacently, right?
Yeah. So like analysts aren't speaking to the public. I'm not sure why. But what that means is that analysts are talking to each other at conferences and in papers, and then leaving the world to other guys who step forward and start talking, you know, like coaches and whatever, which I'm not, it's fine. There's a place for that, but why aren't we speaking more in the public space? Because we have such rich theory.
Yes.
And if you try to read a psychoanalytic paper, they usually, not always, but they can be very dense and very theory heavy. And I know that psychoanalysts can speak in an ordinary way because we have to do it with our patients every day. So I kind of saw a gap and I was like, right, we need to fix this. And so I had this idea that I wanted to write a book where we could bring psychoanalytic theory to a place that needed it. And obviously what was, you know, core to my heart was parenting. So that's where I started. And so the idea was to get as many psychoanalysts from around the world to write to parents in the style of TED Talk of TED, which was, tell me something personal about yourself that you struggled with, and then how did psychoanalysis help you? And so that's how the idea came to me. And then it took me about 5 years to peddle it together, to get the contract, to find the analysts
who were willing
to do it, because like I said, it's not something we normally do. It took from beginning to end, I would say from idea to shelf, it took about 5 years. But Jesus, it was an amazing experience. Yeah. And so that's the book. So now we've got Parenting Psychoanalyzed, Letters to a Parent, and it's a compilation of 39 letters from analysts around the world speaking about the thing that they have suffered with as a parent, and, you know, shared in ordinary layman's terms, you know, written in the simplest language. Each letter is about 4 or 5 pages, and it just talks about something from their heart to the reader.
So one thing that most of your contributors mentioned and like really get stuck into, they a lot of them fall back on Donald Winnicott. And I was like, that rings a bell. Hang on. And this is something that you're talking about, the Dr. Shafalis, the Jay Chetty's, the Brené Browns of the world. You see it all the time in 30-second reels.
Yeah.
Good enough mothering. And I'm sure we've passed, pebbles to one another, little Instagram reels. Look at this about good enough mothering, and considered it and thought about it. But Donald Winnicott is best known for his theory on the concept of good enough mothering, which extends to good enough parenting. So what is it? Because I also think that based on the theoretical concept, you talking about psychoanalysts really do speak academically, but in simplified terms. I do think because we haven't heard it directly from analysts, it's been filtered.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a danger in that filter. So let's hear what your take is on good enough mothering. Because are we a generation of women that are aiming to be mediocre after being like, as millennial women, as young girls, we were taught aim for the best, aim for excellence.
Yeah.
And so we're caught in this like, shouldn't we need to strive for perfection? It sounds nice to go for just the mediocre, good enough, but that really goes against my grain. And honestly, as a person and as a mother, good enough mothering, the concept of good enough mothering, the one that I get off Instagram, doesn't sit right. But when I looked deeper into Donald Winnicott, I was like, that makes a little bit more sense.
Yes.
But can you explain it? Because I'm going to bog it up.
Okay, I'll do my best. Winnicott is notoriously difficult to read because he speaks about paradoxes in parenting, you know, like exactly this thing, like how is good enough great? Like I don't understand, you know. So Winnicott was a pediatrician and a psychoanalyst, and I think there's some mad stat, like I think in his career he treated something like 30,000 mothers and babies, and he observed them. That paper that he wrote, The Good Enough Mother, is one of the most widely read psychoanalytic papers ever written. So what he talks about is what he noticed with mothers was, obviously we all want to do the best. We want to show up, okay? And in a concrete way, showing up means showing up every time, doing everything perfect, ticking all the boxes, filling things to the brim all the time. But we all know that that is not possible, either because we're not superhuman, okay, or like there's just delays in life, right? So like
sometimes life happens. Like today, you're running on a little bit less sleep, which means you're not optimized in the delivery of your tasks.
Exactly. Like you're just going to fail in ordinary ways. You know what I mean? So like it's not that you're not going to feed your baby. It's because things take 30 seconds to warm up. Okay. So your baby has to wait, and that can feel like a failure. You know, like I'm not getting to my child quick enough. So, but what Winnicott observed was that there is success in that. And I'll try my best to explain it. But essentially what it means is that a mother just needs to show up enough times to lay down the message in the baby's mind that they will come. So you don't have to get it right every time. You have to get it right enough times so that the baby has the impression that mom will come back. She's coming. She'll get there. I'll get my needs met eventually, even if I have to wait, okay? That's the first part of it. The other part of it is that there is success in failing your child. So an ordinary developmental milestone for all of us is that you can't always get what you want when you want it. Now, when you're a baby, in the newborn phase, we have to respond as quick as possible. You know how you have to run. You run to the baby. You know, the baby's cry mobilizes you, you go. But in time, something happens where you walk a little bit slower, or, you know, you feel like the baby can tolerate it, which is true. That is what's starting to happen. That is because the baby's mind is starting to form ideas and starting to form an opinion that, okay, if I wait, she'll still come, because it's happened enough times in the beginning, right?
I distinctly also remember that it was a different type of cry. Like I knew which cries to run to and which ones were like, he's okay, he's just agitated.
Exactly.
I'll get there now.
Yeah, so you were picking up on some of the cues there that also allowed you to walk a bit slower and not with the same urgency, right? Now, what is happening in those delays, something very important is happening in the baby's mind, and it's all unconscious. So the baby doesn't realize they're happening. It's happening at a deeply unconscious level. In that gap between wanting something and that thing being delivered, that need being fulfilled, the baby has to work. They have to do psychic work, emotional work. And that is and they start to form ideas and they start to form capacity. And it is in that space of failure where the baby starts to develop
the ability to do that work.
The ability to think.
Okay.
So if you are constantly there for your child, forever and ever and ever, they never develop the capacity to be separate and to think for themselves. Which is why you just have to be good enough, and you should just be good enough, because if you are fulfilling your child's every whim forever and ever, they can't separate from you because you're going to have to think for them forever. Nobody wants that. It's not good for the baby. It's not good for you. It's not healthy. Yeah. So, you know, so that's essentially, I think, if I've explained it well enough, that's essentially what good enough parenting means. It's being just there enough times that the baby's got the impression to survive the gap so they can start to think and separate from you.
You just have to be good enough to give them the tools they need to survive on their own eventually.
Exactly. And it's obviously a fine line, and there's no tick box to say it's got to be 10 times or 8 times. So it's a feel, we got to feel
and
our
every
way
child
through
is
it.
different, because I might be good enough in this way to my eldest, and he picks up on that, and so we start navigating that journey. But my youngest might suffer from anxiety or be an entirely different child, which means that journey will look different for us.
They'll pull on you in different ways to do different things for them emotionally. But if you are there for your child, if you are like merged with your child for too long and you're not putting any pressure on them to challenge themselves mentally and emotionally, they don't learn how to do it. But it's got to be done incrementally, developmentally, appropriately, slowly.
I suppose it's quite logical if you think about it, because if I tie my child's shoelaces for them all the time on behalf of them, they're never going to learn how to tie their own shoelaces, which is a simple example. But at some point you have to show them the mechanics. So we do this loop and that loop and we swing it around and we pull. And then now you try. I'm struggling. Okay, I'll help you. And then you slowly but surely allow them, or just like riding a bike. First they do the training wheels, and when the training wheels come off, you hold them, and then you slowly let go.
And then one day you're not there and they'll trip on the shoelace, and then they've learned something new. What happens when I don't do it, or I don't wait for mom to do it? That was sore. I bruised my knees. Better make sure that doesn't happen. So now I'm going to look down at my shoes. So that's happening at a psychic level all the time. Like all those neurons are firing, and they're building kind of an understanding of how the world works, and learning how to think. It's really helping your child develop a capacity to think for themselves. That's the work of good enough.
And also, I think the role of psychoanalytics here and how it dovetails so nicely with parenting. I think all parents, even though you might not be aware of it, there's a lot of, you start to feel things, you start to remember things. A lot of us start to blame, and we find, I've found certain things over the course of motherhood, especially in new motherhood, like the first 18 months, a lot of anger towards my parents for particular ways. And I've had to go there and heal and think about these things, know. And I do think so. There's a clear path that I think every parent goes through, where they're looking at themselves when they were 6 months, 18 months, 2 years, 5 years. I've noticed my husband, his parents got divorced at 5, and when my eldest son turned 5, he started feeling a lot. I saw a lot crop up for him. So I see those parallels. And I want to digress for a second, but I do think that this kind of lends itself to the discussion. You were there. You were there. And this is why I want to bring it up. Charlene relieved me in new motherhood with my second child, who was born in 2020. And she was just like, you need to get out. I needed to go do my nails, and I needed to be fed, and I needed a break. And so Charlene came, do you remember? And we also wanted to do some work on TGE. So I was just like, I'd really love to exercise. I don't know if we did do some exercise that day, but I had my... Just how old was Noah? 6 months? 5 months? 4, 5, 6. No, he was starting solid. So he was about 4, 5 months.
Okay.
And I wanted to do a video on solid foods. And we still have this. And every time this memory crops up and I see these photos, I have this awful, guilty feeling because I fucked up bad. Do you know what the fuck up was? Can you think?
Remind me.
You're going to poo-poo this. It's going to be I can't believe that you get hung up on this. I was having the time of my life. I had my friend there. She was helping with my baby. We were filming. I felt that creative, I'm getting something done. This productivity, that's what I craved in after having a baby. And I missed Noah's nap, his afternoon nap. I missed it. And let me tell you, I don't miss this shit. I do not miss a beat in feeding my kids, in getting them to sleep on time, in meeting their every need. And he was 4, 5 months old, and we finished filming, and I saw Charlene out, and I looked at my kid, and he's like, very tired and it's not nap time. And I said,
And now it's too late for him to take a nap because we're now bleeding into
the timing wasn't right. He needed to eat dinner by that time, do bath, and then bed. He skipped his first nap. And it's my second child. You'd think that I wouldn't care about this stuff, but I still do. He's 5 now. He's going to be 5 in October. I still feel bad when those memories crop up or I see these things. And I know, like Charlene at the time, and you didn't mean to make me feel bad, but she was just like, I thought so, because I could see he was tired. And I was like, I missed it.
How did you see it? And
You
I
saw
didn't
it and
see
I
it.
didn't, and I'm his mother, and I still feel so bad. I still feel guilt, and my mind is, when I look back on those photos and I feel the guilt, my mind is going, Sam, he's fine. He's at school now. He's okay. He's like, he doesn't remember this, and I still feel this guilt that I messed up. I didn't have this clean record. Similarly, like I had a traumatic birth with my first, and I had to unlearn this feeling that I could have a do-over of birth, because when you birth subsequent to your first birth, you have your first child, it's never going to be the same. So this, like, I fucked up, and I've got like I don't have a perfect record of mothering, is hard for me to grapple with at this point.
So you've done a really interesting thing. So that's where your thoughts went. Okay. I think it's really interesting because I'm just listening to you. If I can just do the psychoanalyst thing quickly. But you first talked about divorce. Then you talked about solids. Then you talked about sleep. Then what was the last thing you talked about?
You didn't have a perfect record.
No, there was another example.
Or just like normal parenting, like routine, I guess.
It will come to me. You used another example. Those are all separations. They're all processes of transition. So the divorce is a hard, very traumatic separation. Solids it's a transition, it's a separation, because you're no longer in that close bottle thing. It's a period where the baby is starting to become more self-sufficient. That is separating. Sleep is a time of separation when you're away from each other. I can't remember what the last thing was that you said, but it was also
related to separation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what it was
school?
because I'm finding this very interesting.
Could have been school, could have been like me.
We're going to have to listen back.
Going back to work,
But it was another separation. But there's something about separating that can feel like the worst thing in the world. It is very, very painful for mothers and babies to separate, which is why we struggle with doing it. And sometimes it's their struggle that we are internalizing and feeling. Sometimes it's their struggle. It's our struggle and it's their struggle. But when that tension starts to happen, it's like a mourning. It's like you're mourning something because you don't have that super closeness anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if he needed to be awake just to, I don't know, be close. You know? Were you at the house or were you out?
Both.
Yeah, first we were out, and then it's funny because I looked at that video the other day. We filmed this video. We had at that point a little segment called Dashboard Confessions. And so we would film them sitting in the car and we would have this little dashboard confession. And so this was a little dashboard cam that we were filming this solid foods thing, and Noah was in the car with us. And
is that when you forgot his sleep? Okay, but so because it feels like it's almost like an extra way to just spend time with each other because you're separating.
He was so happy. He wasn't even moaning.
No, he was a happy little. It was one of the most chaotic videos I'd ever watched. It was delightfully chaotic. I watched it not actually just the other day. I watched it. I laughed like a drain watching it back. It was such a beautiful memory, and I think. And you're right, I am going to poo-poo this because go and watch that video again.
I watch it, but when I watch it, I'm like, this is exactly the moment he should have been napping.
You need to find a way. You need to find a way to get over that because there are other things in that video that are so happy.
But I think I miss it. I miss those. I miss the good in striving for the perfect. In the same way that, like,
Yeah.
my eldest broke his leg at a trampoline park because I double jumped him. And you know what I keep thinking, and what I thought at the time was, this is really a psychoanalyst an analysis of me.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This is like
yeah.
a session for me.
Yeah.
When it happened, and it's that cry, I was just like, everybody said, no, he's probably just sprained it. He's 2. Their legs are pliable. And I was just like, I know my
Something's
kid.
wrong, yeah.
He broke his leg. I know that cry. I knew it immediately. And I thought, you were having fun. How dare you have fun in that moment? And
Like self-flagellation.
yeah, and
Guilt over having had
that's
the
my
fun.
mode of parenting, is self-flagellation. I just want this perfect record.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a misnomer for me personally to call it good enough mothering, because it doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
It makes me deeply uncomfortable.
But I find even just that so useful, because it's not meant to. That's the feeling. That's the experience. So you've got like the name of the thing. We know that our kids have to have solids. We know that they have to sleep through the night. We know that they have to, but that's not how it feels. It feels like shit.
Yes.
You feel guilty. It feels iffy and icky and like you're doing a bad thing. It's meant to do that. It's meant to. So in a way, your instinct about it fills in the gaps about what it feels like for the mother and for the child. It is very, very painful to not be fused and to have to do the work and to have to think. I mean, you challenged him on the trampoline, you know, and there was both pain and exhilaration that came from that. And that's the work, right? So one of the letters in the book, Deborah Ashdown's letter, is about separation with teens.
Yes, I was just going to ask about the teenage years. Yes.
So that's another period of separation, because now emotionally again, things are starting to wake up and they're starting to separate and become adults now. And she said something quite profound in the letter, which is that there is something so, I don't know, paradoxically painful about your kids growing up. Obviously, you want them to grow up. Obviously, you want them to become independent. I mean, you don't want your children living with you forever. Like, that's life, right? There's an order, like a logical order. But something illogical also kicks in internally, where actually they don't need you as much. What a rejection. Hey? 100%. Like, he actually, like, your son managed without you putting him to sleep. Like, how dare he? Like,
how dare he be okay without my help?
I mean, it's such a betrayal, you know. Like, so there's this thing that happens when we're separating, where we having to work out our stuff and they working out their stuff, and often it all just gets mushed up together, and you sometimes don't know what's your feeling and what's theirs.
Yes.
Like, that's some of the work is to separate that out, you know. But there is something so painful about letting them get on with it.
Yes.
And then you also getting on with it, because you're no longer fused. We started with umbilical cords. Now we're actually 2 separate minds in the world with different opinions, different ideas, different things to do in our day. It's painful, man.
Yeah, it is. The reason I wanted to ask about the teenage years is because my eldest is reminding me of that a lot. He's 9. He'll be 10 in January. And I find with him lately, he's getting so grown up. He's so smart. I mean, I know I'm his mom. I'm going to cry. He's just so smart and wonderful and amazing to me. And I love watching him grow into this person that he's becoming. But becoming this person also means that he's like challenging me. And I've always encouraged them to like be strong and don't just accept things, and like, you know, we don't just roll over and we ask the questions. And you parent like that, they ask the questions at you sometimes, you know. And I watch him become this more independent person. And then at the same time, he's like on the precipice of becoming this big boy. And yet sometimes he can still need me so much that I feel guilty, that I take for granted that he still needs me, you know, and it's this constant dance. Like I'm like, you need to let go, Shani. Like, let him pick out his own clothes, for goodness sake. How's he ever? And it's not because I try and mollycoddle him. It's just from a practicality point of view. I'm so stuck in the routine. We got to be somewhere at a certain time. Josh, your clothes are on your bed. I chose that for you. If you don't like it, you can change it. But just can we just get dressed, please? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, and he's happy with that. And sometimes he will be defiant at me. But then other times he'll come and cuddle me and say that he loves me in such a very, what's the word? Like he's still an infant kind of way, you know? And I'm finding it hard. I'm finding it very emotionally triggering at the moment with him.
So it sounds like so what happens, there's an amazing thing about adolescence, this like these tween into teen years. So that is the second period of separation. So there's all the separation when they're babies into toddlers, you know, in those early years. And then what happens intrapsychically is that all of that goes to sleep. It goes dormant. There's like a latent period where unconsciously everything kind of goes to sleep. And when they're starting to hit puberty, it all wakes up again.
Yes, he's got big emotions.
Yeah. You feel like you got a newborn again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Like you go up and down and up and down. So that's the same as like you carrying a baby again. You know, you can feel. So you activated it because of that. This is a second chance. It's an amazing thing. Adolescence is a second chance. If things didn't go so well at the beginning, for whatever reasons, when your kids become teenagers, you get to rework everything because they're challenging you. They're separating again.
That gives me so much hope.
Yeah.
What you just said there gives me so much hope, because when he was really little, he had very big feelings, and because he couldn't verbalize them yet, like one or two, he couldn't fully articulate it. He would like sometimes hit himself or do things that was quite disturbing to me, and I would often be at my wit's end, and I felt like I failed him there.
Yeah.
And so just the other day I was like, he's feeling these big emotions again, only this time it's with words.
Right.
And he's like super angry now, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'll remind myself in those moments of what it was like when he was very little, and I felt awful and exasperated like a terrible mom. And I'll try and have a do-over.
Because we actually always say on the show, you don't get a mulligan. You don't have a do-over in parenting, and that's the scariest part of parenting.
You do.
So that's nice. Thank you for sharing that.
You do. There's always a chance to redo. A really important psychoanalytic idea is an idea of repair. There is always time to repair. I'm trying to think, Fred Bush, he's a very well-known analyst who's written for the book. He writes sort of towards the end of the book. And he talks about how our children will forgive us. There just has to be thought around it. You know, they're not going to forgive blindly. You have to be able to do the work on yourself and think about what went wrong, what did you do, what did they do. But as we get older, we can put things into words, we can take responsibility. There is always a way to repair, really. But it does start in the parent having to think about what went wrong, you know, face certain things, mourn losses, you know. But there is, I don't know, I don't agree. I think we do get a chance to redo.
I was just going to say that it is an opportunity for our children to also see that parents are, infallible? We're not infallible. We're quite flawed.
Yeah.
And so, because I think also there was a certain generation over time where parenting looked very much like, well, I'm the parent, and because I say so, and because I know everything, and you don't question it. Whether I'm right or wrong is irrelevant. It is my way or the highway kind of thing. And at the moment, I'm feeling that humility to go to your kid and be able to say, look, I didn't handle that situation so well.
Yeah.
I'm not really proud of how I handled it, and I think I could have done better. So for that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's also a lesson for them to learn that to apologize and like own your mistakes is perfectly okay. You don't have to always be right. And I think it also instills trust to be like, look, I can trust this person because they will be honest with me if there is a mistake or there is something that's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And I can be honest with them as well.
And it also holds something important about how anger's not permanent. So you can be angry with each other, let's say. You can kind of feel like you handled it really badly, but you can go away, you can pause, and in time you can think about it, you can come back and apologize, and that's the repair. That anger can be survived, difficult feelings between people, guilt, all those horrible, the nasty stuff that can go on between internally and between, us and our kids. You can survive it. Like these are all
Our
ordinary
relationships are not that fragile. They can survive these things.
we can work it through. Like, it's not the end of the world. These things are not, they're not undoable, you know? Yeah.
At the risk of villainizing the boomer generation, which I don't want to do, but I think we as millennials, we often speak about it. That moment you realize your parents or the people you look up to, your mentors, don't have their shit together. Even your therapist.
Yeah.
You're just like, hey, come
You're
now.
not perfect.
This is, no. And the moment you realize like nobody has their shit together is such a downer. You get so disillusioned. And I think that happened to us, and maybe that way, and I'm really generalizing here.
Yeah, sure.
But our way of apologizing and repairing after, fights and hurts and anger with our children and admitting fault and saying sorry is a way of preventing that disillusionment later on. Just like, I told you I wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to figure this out together. And we're going to talk about it a bit later, but Alan Sugarman talks about emotional muscle. And I think maybe that's it, that in doing this and in admitting that we're not infallible and admitting that we can really muck it up a lot of the time, we're teaching our kids to grow that emotional muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Talking about generations gone by, we highlighted one of the contributors who addresses generational trauma in her letter.
Yeah.
She was so interesting for me.
I found it interesting as well.
Austrian born. You've got a lot of interesting high end as well in the analytical space, right?
Yeah.
Contributors. So Martina Griller-Muschel, am I saying her name right?
Yeah.
Or Muschel. She's Austrian born, but Johannesburg-based.
Yeah.
And but she talks about generational trauma in World War II.
Yes.
But I think that there's definitely a similar strain of what we can look at, in South Africa with apartheid. So that's how I viewed it through that lens. I'm just like, for me always, because I've researched and written about generational trauma, and there's so much like disease, like illness, physical illness. If you're looking beyond kind of what's happening mentally and what's happening between generations down from those who were affected in the Holocaust are ill, physically ill still with, what do you call it? Autoimmune
disorders,
disease.
Yeah.
And how prevalent that is. And I'm pretty sure the same thing is happening currently with those who are affected by apartheid in South Africa. And I mean, look at how war-torn we are, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in the Ukraine and all of that. Definitely, I think that there's synergy there. And I found that this letter was quite illuminating. But she begins, how did you feel about the Philip Larkin poem?
Yeah.
She used at the beginning, because can we read it? Wait.
Sure.
That poem, I was like, wow.
It's short enough, right, to
Yes.
read. I don't have it.
Read it.
Yeah.
Wait, I've got it here.
152. Do you want to read it?
Me? Yeah, I'll read it. Let me quickly grab it here. 152. Here we are. Dear potential parent, they fuck you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra just for you. But they were fucked up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats, who half the time were soppy stern and half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can and don't have any kids yourself. I get goosies reading that.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that the world is, how many people do we know? There's a lot of people in our generation actively choosing not to have kids. Why would you add more to the strife in this world? Why would you do this?
Yeah.
And here we are, 3 women who have done it and who wouldn't not do it. I wanted to have children.
Yeah.
I chose to have children. I would do it again, even in the current climate. But
You had a baby during COVID, for goodness sake.
well, that was I felt pregnant prior.
Yes.
You didn't know.
I did not know what was coming. But
Yeah.
had I known what was coming, probably Elijah would be an only child. Shame, Noah. Oh, Noah. He wouldn't be
No,
around.
the world needs
So,
Noah.
How did you feel getting that quote, getting that contribution, and you're just like, interesting? Or what was your take?
Listen, not much surprises me. I feel like what an important thing to add into the book. I feel like intergenerational trauma is its core. You know, we are absolutely. It's like you've got all these generations in you, because I suppose the way our parents were parented and the way their parents were parented, it lives in you like a kind of genetic code.
Yes.
You know? So all your attachment is informed. You know, even how, you said like, I wanted to do the opposite to what my mother wanted to do. You know, that we all say that, like, I'm not going to do this because my mother did that. You know,
it's either one or the other, right? It's either like, well, my mother did it this way. My mother buys Rama as a margarine. And so when I move into my own home, that's like my go-to because I don't know any better.
Yeah.
Until you think that you do know better and you choose, or you vehemently hated Rama. And so you choose to
do
go
the
for butter
opposite.
and you do the opposite.
But
yeah.
it's still linked. Your choices are inextricably linked to where you came from and how everyone was parented. That happens psychically, unconsciously. There's like this kind of chain.
Yeah.
There were a couple of letters that touched on intergenerational trauma, and I think it's an essential thing. And what do we do when we don't even know what we're carrying of our pasts and of our parents' pasts? You know, what is that? You know, does it go into our bodies? Does it go into our skin? Does it go into our behaviors with our kids? Like, what are we carrying? What are the feelings? It's such an important kind of element, I feel like.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
To interrupt you.
No.
I'm constantly also thinking, and I know Charlene touched on it as well, that what am I going to do? What are my kids going to carry? What are my kids
What
gonna
am I
carry?
unintentionally burdening my children with that's going to send them directly into hours and hours of therapy?
Right. I mean, I think that's what Martina was talking about. Like, she didn't want to pass on whatever was in her that she didn't have the power to break. But actually what she talks about in the letter is that her own analysis, going into her own process therapeutically, is what interrupted that, because she became so aware of what was in her, what she was carrying, all the feelings, all the habits, all those things, that she could then make different choices around them. That's all it is. It really is all it is. Absolutely. It's like, I have this feeling of rage in me. Okay, well, that's uncomfortable. Okay, but now I know that it's there, so you can feel it when it comes up, so you don't hit someone. You know, and then you work through it to such a degree that it almost metabolizes something, so it doesn't have power over you. If you know something well enough inside yourself, then you make choices around it. But the problem with intergenerational trauma is that it's largely unconscious. So you don't know, but these forces are operating behind the scenes like a backseat driver. Like
They're steering the cart.
Absolutely.
And you have no idea where it's coming from.
100%. So so I think it's a very complicated thing, but I'm glad you bring South Africa into it, because I think there is this context.
Yes.
That we've also been shaped by, right? Politically, right? There's also a context. So not only it's so complicated. Not only do you have the parents' line and the generational things from your own line, but you also have the environment.
The circumstantial happenings.
Yeah.
That
Which influence. And I mean, it's just like a soup. It's
So also interesting to me is Charlene and I read differently. And I want to bring this up in the context of Alan Sugarman's contribution, where we speak about like he had me for a while. I was like emotional muscle regulation. He addresses discipline and how you cannot discipline an unregulated child. Like they need to be in a safe space. They need to trust you. Good. Parenting is not democratic. Interesting. And then he says self-regulation works most smoothly when it comes from their loving us and wanting our approval. Immediately I flagged it, ? As a reader, I went, don't know if I agree with that. Alan, Sugarman.
Do you want his number?
Don't know if I'm so brave, Andy.
Yeah.
I'm brave.
He's so nice.
Really, he probably is.
He's the nicest,
yes. Alan. Did I say Andy?
No, Alan.
Did I say Alan?
Yeah.
So, And I was like, I don't know. But I can hash it out, and that's my take as a reader. Not when you read that, but certain of the things, because there was another contributor, and I can't recall it now, but that touched on physical space, I think.
Yes.
And
it was Liliana's.
Yes.
I think,
Liliana
Castro,
Castro, yes,
yeah.
that's it.
and in particular with regard to attachment parenting and sleep.
Yeah.
And having the kid in your bed. I don't know whether that was Liliana. I'll need to.
Can't remember.
I'll need to
They start
double-check.
to mush sometimes.
Yeah,
but
there was one contributor that spoke
Yeah.
specifically of having kids in your bed and the need to kind of like out now, because she knows of some parents whose kids have been in there at like 13, 14, 15, which becomes problematic, etc. Then you're heading into that argumentative territory and whatnot. And I can put a question mark, but when you come across that, your reaction?
Yes, because I read his letter, and not necessarily the self-regulation part, but he was talking about, I guess, putting the distance between not doing so much for them so that they're able to develop the skill and the independence in doing it themselves. And I was reading it, and I don't know if I found it, I didn't feel attacked by it, but I was like, oh shit, I'm doing it wrong. Does that mean that this very smart man is telling me that I'm doing it wrong? And I've been so proud of how I've been doing that one particular thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and my kids are still little, and I'm starting to like justify to myself internally while I'm reading this.
Yeah.
To myself why I'm doing it. But Charlene, it's different because you're in this situation.
Yeah.
And then I had to be like, hold on a minute, why am I so offended by this?
Yeah, right?
So he says, I don't know if this is exactly the part, but it touches on it. Unfortunately, my personal experience raising my 2 children and treating children is that our very love and desire to protect them from unhappiness and danger too often undermines our efforts to build emotional muscle.
Yes.
This conflict occurs because emotional muscle requires some pain as the muscle is stressed. And he carries on. Thank you, Alan, for that. Please don't be offended.
I also loved the way you explained it. And I think maybe why I got so drawn into what he was saying was because I weight lift. I train with weights.
And he speaks about
and he speaks about how the pain of the muscle feels after a great training session as opposed to the pain in the muscle when there's been injury.
Yes.
And what a beautiful way to describe it. And so I found that very relatable. And then he goes into this, like, you need to give them the train their emotional muscles. And I was like,
you want to be like, no. Yeah.
That's so funny. I mean, I think I've got so many thoughts. Hold on, let me just choose one. Firstly, that muscle thing, I think actually has a synergy with the Winnicott good enough thing. So there's that. Okay, I just want to like plant the...
Wait, okay, tie that for me.
Because...
There's the learning. When she spoke about the space of in the disappointment or in the failing, there is the opportunity for them to learn and develop a skill. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's like strain that's put somewhere.
In the strain, there's, it galvanizes you. It gives you the experience in how to go through that trench.
Yes, that's the muscle. Like the mind is starting to work. So that's the first. I just wanted to put the pin into the theory. Okay. I think as a context, one of the other reasons I wrote the book was because a lot of the books out there and a lot of the parenting experts, I'm not going to name names, there's a real finger-wagging quality.
Yes.
I don't like it. It's like, you're not doing this and you're ruining your kids and don't do that and did it. And a lot of people are coming to my mind, but I don't want to say. I feel like that is not helping parents. We are doing it enough to ourselves. It's what you are talking about.
We have so
here,
much
right?
guilt already.
There is so much internal chatter. We call it in psychoanalysis your superego. There is so much that we already are just whacking ourselves, self-flagellating all the time. Like, I did this wrong. There's enough. We don't need the experts, so-called experts. I don't even know what that is.
Yes.
I never want to be referred to that
Who's a
as.
parent? I tell you this
I
all
don't
the
like it.
time. I said, as soon as someone says they're a social media expert
I don't
or
like
a
it.
parenting expert, I don't believe you.
I don't like it. It just means you're not in touch with something. I don't like it. Okay? I don't like it. But the point is, we're doing it enough. So what I really was hoping was that the book, and I talked about this with each of the writers as we were going along, like, we are on the parent side. We have to speak to the parent. We're not on the child's side necessarily. It's not about that. We are speaking to somebody who needs our help, who needs to open something up. Yeah. It's so interesting listening to you, though, because I can hear it doesn't even matter what we were doing, because our own voices come in anyway and do the talking. You know, do it. It's so interesting. The thing is, though, in my introduction, what I talk about is this thing that we do in a psychoanalytic treatment is we pay attention to thought, okay? So in psychoanalysis, there's kind of one rule. Well, there's more than one rule, but the one that I'm going to draw attention to is say what comes to mind, okay? So when a patient comes in and lies down on the couch or sits in front of me, they have to start the session. They have to say what comes into their mind. I don't start the session. So we start with wherever they are. And then we follow their thoughts. And in time, it's quite a hard thing to do because we sort of taught from very young to like screen what we say. But this process kind of undoes that. In those 50 minutes, we're just going to follow your thoughts, even if they're random and they're illogical. We're just going to see where things go and try and make threads, and then to get to the unconscious stuff. So I'm hoping that a book like this can be an analytic process. There can be some analytic process that happens. So what I say to the reader is, as you're reading these letters, just pay attention to your thoughts. If something really rubs you up the wrong way, doggy other page, there might be something there. You know, if you get tired and you need to go to sleep, there's probably something there.
That happened to me at some point as well, I have to admit. Yeah. And I don't know why, and I want to know why.
I must say, and I want you to read from your introduction so that readers also know that message comes across and readers know how to interact with the book. But from a personal perspective, if I were gifting this to someone, I would be like, this isn't a weekend read.
Yeah. You're not going to read it cover to cover in a weekend sitting.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go
take a chapter for chapter.
Yeah.
So do you want to read from the selection that you chose out of your own introduction? Because this is your letter, and then you close it off with a letter as well.
Should I do the ending, the one that we spoke about earlier?
Yes, I think the one we spoke about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how. I won't give a context for it, but this is sort of like, I guess, the feeling I had after editing all these letters over the years. I think deep down, I wanted to be a psychoanalyst because I invented the idea that analysts know everything, and I craved that as a mother. But the more I edited these letters and the more I collaborated with the individual contributors, the more I was reminded that actually parenting is a reconciling with not knowing. The great surprise of this compilation is that analysts are not experts at parenting. We're just muddling through like everyone else. That said, we are incredibly interested in the muddle and what it all means. And implicit in each letter is that leaning into that via personal inquiry then frees us up to support our children in becoming more of themselves. And so, dear parent, I hope this book was an experiential read and that it stimulated internal debates that trickle into your home in useful ways. I also hope that if you ever decide to take a deeper dive into any of your own musings, that you now know where to look. And finally, I hope that you close this book with a deep sense of respect for yourself, a healthy curiosity, and a few more questions than answers.
Well done. Well done on this book.
Thank you.
It's such an important contribution, and You know, What to Expect When You're Expecting has gone through many, many, many revisions, and all due respect to the contributors and writers of that book over the years, and any other parenting book. I've got like a list of really great books that have found useful, actually. But I think this definitely will go onto the list, and we must remember that Great Expect. I keep wanting to say Great Expectations. What to Expect When You're Expecting deals with a really small portion of what parenting is all about. And this we've learned over the years of the Great Equalizer. We're going on almost a decade now, almost 9 years. And we've grown out of nappies. And we did one of our first episodes was on cloth nappies. Irrelevant to us right now.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
There's so much else.
There's
out there.
there's like, I find that the mechanics of it might over time become irrelevant. But what is always a golden thread in the things that we discuss is the psychological and emotional part of it. Because we might have been talking about cloth nappies and the mechanics of it and are we using cloth nappies or not. But in that episode, we do talk about our feelings around it and the pressure of motherhood and the guilt for not giving your child cloth nappies. And here we are, me expressing the guilt I have for not giving my child enough independence or not helping his emotional muscles develop, you know.
Same feeling, different day.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a little golden thread. It's the DNA of what we will forever be talking about.
Yep.
It's just that you've leveled up to the next level now, and it gets a little bit more hardcore with every try.
And I think also to know that if those things keep coming up, if you keep on stumbling across your own guilt, across your own, irritation, things come up in us over and over again. Feelings are there. The reason we have feelings is because it alerts us to a need. So if you keep feeling the same thing and you keep getting into that same tussle with yourself, check it out.
Yeah.
Because it's your unconscious's way of saying, hey, that there's something that I need to deal with, actually.
And I think that's such a great lesson as well, because with my youngest, just yesterday, she was acting out in frustration and anger about something. And in the moment, I don't know how I did it, and I'm quite proud of myself for doing that. But
Good job.
She was like very frustrated and angry, and normally it's late in the day, we're all tired, we're like on a tight schedule, we're under pressure, and I would more often than not lose my temper with her and be like, please, can we just not do this right now? It is time to go and bath or whatever. And she was flipping out again, and instead of doing that, I just took a breath and I was like, look, you know what? I get it. I get it. This feeling is not a nice feeling. I get that you're angry at the situation, and I am sorry. We have to bath. We have to go and bath now. It's not fun for me either. And so maybe we can just stand here for a little bit and feel frustrated and angry at the situation, because we have a feeling for a reason. Why do you think you're feeling this way? Is it that you really don't want to bath? Is it that you're not feeling well? Is it that you don't feel like walking up the stairs? Or is it that you wanted 5 more minutes to play this game with your scooter?
Now the trick is to do it with ourselves.
You see?
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize it at the time, but when you mentioned it now, I thought to myself that I managed to teach her in that moment to ask herself, why am I feeling this way? You know?
Yeah.
She's a lucky girl.
She is a lucky girl.
That's so nice of you to say.
Look, we could keep going, and there's really a lot of stuff that we glossed over. But, we are a podcast about motherhood and womanhood, but I really like all the kudos to you, Andy, for being inclusive in this as well. Fathers, this is a book for fathers.
Yes.
This is a book for adoptive parents. This is a book for grandparents to come to some kind of reckoning on how they became grandparents after being parents and their own journeys. I'm really excited about this book and what it contributes to our society and globally as well, because you've included a global voice here.
Yeah.
So well done.
Thank you so much.
What is next for Andy Cohen? Because you just keep marching on. There's a lot that you've added to your resume.
Yeah. I mean, as a creative person, I'm sure, I actually don't know. I'm kind of like quite enjoying just seeing what happens for now. Listen, I've got a private practice and I work every day, with patients, and I love that. Like I love just sort of sitting behind the couch and doing the work. I'm sure there's another book brewing. I'm just waiting to see what my own question is first, and then I'm sure a book will be born out of it. And I'm just really trying to get psychoanalysis out there. It's why it's so, I guess, amazing and important to be talking to people like you who have your finger on the pulse of what other mummies and daddies are, thinking about, because I feel like this is how I bring these ideas. They're not my ideas, they're the profession's ideas. And that's what I want to do. I just want to get it out there more, and so more of this, I hope.
Well, we're going to link our viewers up and our listeners up to all of your details, your social media platforms, your TED Talk, your book, of course, and where they can get it.
And maybe I can also give you a voucher code if they order online. From the overseas, from the Routledge website. I've got a voucher code, so I can also put that. I can give that to you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're going to link it all up for you guys in the show notes. Andy Cohen, thanks so much for joining us on The Great Equalizer.
Thanks for having me.
Charlene, how about we keep talking?
Yes, we will, and we hope our listeners will join the convo too. So if you have something to say about our show or this topic that we've just discussed, please feel free to email us info@thegreatequalizer.co.za.
Or DM us a voice note on Instagram, record one on your phone and send it to us. Pop us another mail with a voice note, rant, rave, do what you need to do, but get it out there. Feel your feelings.
Yes, and also preferably tell us how great we are and how much you'd like us to keep doing this. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, tune in on Apple, Spotify, all the usual channels, wherever you find your podcasts.
A huge shout out to our old and our new listeners and viewers. Your support is so important to us, and so are your ratings. So wherever you are tuning in, drop us a little like or a hartjie, leave a comment. Let us know that you're engaging so we can engage with you.
Give us a 5-star rating and drop a line or two telling us what you like about the show, like I said before. Others can also know then in that way what the show's about and what we're getting up to. The more we're seen, the better we can do, and the more we can put out into the universe for you.
And I think that is it for this episode of The Great Equalizer. Andy Cohen, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
And so are you, Sam.
Thank you so much. You took the words out of my mouth. You are doing an excellent job as well. Until next time,
Keep your mom game strong. Shout out to our producers over at Autumn Aperture and Arch Studios, including our editor Ray Herbst and sound engineer Stephen Krill. Please review our show notes for more on today's topic and expert guest. And for more on The Great Equalizer, our website is always a good idea, www.thegreatequalizer.co.za, along with our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now YouTube. And of course, if you want to chat with Sam or Charlene directly, email us at info@thegreatequalizer.co.za. We would love to hear from you. And guess what? We respond.